So the purpose of this video is to go over the practice or review exam solutions, and on the first page you'll see some information about the exam and a breakdown of this particular exam. Of course, if you're not taking my e-learning course, then that won't be as much interest to you as the actual questions starting now in part 1 here. And so in part 1, the first of the 20 multiple choice says, which of the following is a vector quantity? Time, force, mass, temperature, and then there's a none of these. Mass is just a numerical amount. That's scalar. The same with temperature and the same with time. Now, some people might argue that time actually goes forward, so it has a direction, but that's not really the same as a force. A force has a size and it also has a specific direction, just like velocity is a vector quantity or acceleration. So force is the correct answer here for number 1. Number 2, using the triangle law of addition to add two vectors, the vectors must be drawn, and they have to be drawn head to tail. So that's the only correct way to draw them using triangle law of addition. They have to be drawn head to tail. It's kind of like where one vector ends, the next one begins. So when you start drawing them, if this is the first vector, to draw the second vector, you have to draw it so that the head, the tip, and the head and the tail actually overlap here. And so if they're drawn like that, and that was a mistake, the sum vector would actually go from the beginning of the first one to the tip of the second one. And so that's what the triangle law of addition will actually look like. So that's why the answer for number 2 is D. On to the second page. Given the points -3, 1, -2, and C is 3, -5, 10, we're asked to find the vector BC. So C is the head of the vector, B is the tail of the vector where it starts. So to find the actual components, we subtract them. So we take the coordinates from C and subtract from them the coordinates at B. So we would go 3 take away -3, which of course is 6. And then -5 take away 1, which is -6. A is the correct answer here, by the way. And then 10 take away -2 is the same as 10 plus 2, which is 12. So that's why A is the correct answer for number 3. For number 4, we're given the magnitude or length of vector A is 5, and the magnitude or length of vector B is 6, and the angle between them is 60 degrees. So to find A dot B, and there's two ways to find dot product. When you're given the magnitudes and the angle, it's the magnitude of A times the magnitude of B times the cosine of the 60 degrees. And so that's what the calculation would look like. It would be 5 times 6 times the cos of 60, which works out to 15. Actually, the cos of 60 is exactly a half. So 5 times 6 is 30, and then a half of 30 is to 15. For number 5, you're told that the cross product of vectors D and H, D cross H is 2, -6, 7. So you're asked to find H cross D. Now notice that it's just the cross product in the opposite order, so then you should get the opposite vector. So the opposite of 2, -6, 7 would be -2, 6, -7. So just the opposite of each of the components. So this C would be the cross product of H cross D. For number 6, which of the following are parametric equations of a line through 3, -2 and 9, -4? Now, first of all, you need to find a direction vector between the two vectors. And I said the direction vector between two vectors is actually between 2 points. So to find the vector between these two, and you could actually go in either order, it wouldn't really matter. I went from this vector to this vector, so I went 9 take away the 3, and -4 take away -2, which works out to 6, -2. Now, that is a vector we could use for the direction vector, or any multiple of it. And a simpler multiple would be to divide each of those by 2, and so the vector 3, -1 is the simplest direction vector between the two of them. And so that's what I've used in D here. The correct answer here is D. So the coefficients of the parameter T are the components from the direction vector. So 3, -1, 3, -1 here. And then what goes at the beginning, those two numbers are the coordinates from one of the points on the line. And we know that 9, -4 is on the line, so I could put 9, -4 here. I could have put this, I could have put 3 here and the -2 here from the first point as well. That would have worked okay as well. So that's why D is the correct answer. C has another vector you could use for the direction vector 6, -2, but notice that the signs of the point have changed. It has to be the same as the point. You can't switch those. You can for the direction vector and have it going in just the opposite direction, but you can't change cannot change the signs of one of the points in the line, because the point 3, -2 is not the same as -3, +2. So similar idea here. 3, -2 is a point, and the -9,4 again is a point. It's not. It has to be parallel to the 3, -1 or 6, -2 vector. And similar idea with A. You can't have a point here and the direction and another point here. For number 7, which of the following points is on the plane 3? X plus y minus 4z minus 5 equals 0. Now, what you do in order to check this out is you start substituting the coordinates from the point into the x, y, z variables in the equation. So, for example, if I want to check if 3, 1, -4 is on the plane, I would substitute 3 in place of x, 1 in place of y, and -4 in place of z. So the 3 goes here, and then the 1 goes in place of y, and the -4 goes in place of z, so -4 times -4 minus the 5 in the end. Now, 3 times 3 is 9, and then plus 1 would be 10. This works out to 16, so now we're at 26, and then minus 5. Now, that certainly does not equal 0, and so that point does not satisfy the equation of the plane. But the next point does. If we substitute 2, -1, 0 in, so 2 goes here, the -1 goes in place of y, and then the z is 0. So 3 times 2 is this 6 here, and then minus 1, and -4 times 0, of course, is 0. Now 6 minus 1 would be 5, that part, and then minus this 5 does give you 0. It gives you the value on the right end of the equation, so that point does satisfy the equation of the plane. And so that's why B is the correct answer for number 7. For number 8, which of the following yields a vector perpendicular to both original vectors? And that's the definition of what cross product is. If you have two vectors in three-dimensional space, so let's say those are the two vectors, then when you calculate the cross product, it gives you a vector that's perpendicular to both of them. And so these angles both here would be right angles. That angle would be a right angle. It's hard to draw on the diagram here. So, and this would also be a right angle as well. And so these are the two original vectors, and the cross product yields a vector perpendicular to them. So that's why C is the correct answer for number 8. For number 9, the derivative of y equals f of x, where x equals 3 is, and it's the limit of, and it's f of, now x is 3, so that's why it's 3 at the beginning here. We're putting 3 in place of x. So it'd be f of 3 plus h minus f of 3 over h. So that's the definition of the derivative of the y equals f of x function where x is 3. This is, for example, just simply the definition derivative. It's not the derivative where x equals 3. And so the C one here is very similar to D. Notice the only thing is there's no f of 3 here, so that's why C is not correct, but D is. The power differentiation rule is the derivative of x to the power of n is nx to the n minus 1. You bring the exponent down, multiply by the power of x in front, and reduce the exponent by 1. That's the power differentiation rule. This is the derivative of a constant rule. If k is a real number, the derivative of a constant is 0. So that's the derivative of a constant rule. In C here, the derivative with respect to x of u to the n equals n u to the n minus 1. And then times du dx. Du dx is actually the derivative of the inside function. This is actually the chain rule, not the power differentiation rule. In D here, D looks a lot like A, but if you're differentiating a function of u to the power of n with respect to x, you see those are different variables. So u would, for all intents and purposes, be a constant, so its derivative would be 0. And so because these variables are not the same, that's why that's not the correct statement of the power differentiation rule. For number 11, if f of x is r of x times h of x, then we would use the product rule here to find f prime of x. And so the product rule says it's the derivative of one of the functions, and it doesn't matter whether you differentiate r first or h first. Gives you the same thing, just written in a different order. So it's r prime times h of x. So derivative of the first function times the second plus, and then the opposite, the derivative of the h function times the r function. So that's the correct statement of the product rule. For number 12, if y equals f of g of x, so this is a composite function, then to find the derivative of y with respect to x, it's the it's the derivative. I'm trying to look here. What's the e is the there is not a correct answer here. I'm looking for what's the closest. B is kind of close in a way here. What you have to do is evaluate the derivative of the f function, and perhaps I'll just write this one out. So this is the correct statement of the chain rule for this type of function when it's written in function notation. The derivative of y with respect to x is, and we think of the f as the outside function, the g of x as the inside function. So you take the derivative of the outside function, that's why it says f prime here. You evaluate f prime at g of x, at the original inside function, and then you multiply that by the derivative of the inside function, which is the g prime of x. Very similar to what was written up here. See, if we think of u as the inside function, and u to the n is the outside function, the power function, then this is the derivative of the outside function evaluated at the inside. Notice this is just a u here, and then times du dx is the derivative of the inside function. So this part is like the f prime g of x, and this is the g prime of x, the derivative of the inside function. And so that's why there's no correct answer. E is the correct answer for number 12 because none of these are exactly correct. And for number 13, the graph of the function y equals f of x is always concave up, where graphs are concave up where the second derivative is positive. That means that the function is looking like this. And so the concave up looks like this. When you draw tangent lines, the tangent lines are below the curve where it's concave up. Notice that those tangent lines are going from, I drew a negatively sloped one to a positively sloped one, but not very steep, to a more positively sloped one. So what's happening to the first derivative is going from negative through 0 right here to positive, and then an even larger positive number. So that's why the second derivative is increasing, because the first is greater than 0, because the first derivative is increasing. So that's why D is the correct answer for 13. For number 14, the derivative of 2e to the x is the same original function, 2e to the x, and then you multiply it by the derivative of the exponent. So to do the actual derivative would look like this. So it would be the original function, 2e to the 3x, and then multiplied by the derivative of the exponent. The derivative of the exponent is 3. And so we multiply the 3 by the 2 to give you 6. So it's 6e to the 3x, which is answer D here. For number 15, if y equals a sine of 5x to find y prime, the derivative of sine is cosine. So we would have a cos 5x, and then we would multiply it by the derivative of the 5x, just like we differentiate the 3x to give you 3 here. So the derivative would end up being cos 5x times 5, or 5 cos 5x. So that's why D is the correct answer for 15. For number 16, what kind of line shows an instantaneous rate of change the best? And that's a tangent line. A secant line is only an average. For an instantaneous, you want the line to only touch the point at one place. That's why it's a tangent line and not a secant line. For number 17, we're differentiating 5 to the power of 4x squared. And so the derivative is the original function, 5 to the power of 4x squared, times the derivative of the exponent, which would be 8x, and then also multiply by the ln of the base. This is kind of, which of course would be the ln of 5. This is very similar to this one up here, except when the base is e, you don't have to worry about multiplying by the ln of e, because the ln of e is 1. So now, and of course, I usually write the 8x at the beginning, so it's not confused by somebody might think that they have to multiply the 8x by the 4x squared, because the 8x is a whole part of the term. It's not multiply the exponent. So that's why I would write the 8x first, and then a ln of 5, and then the 5 to the power of 4x squared. You can actually reverse the order, especially if you use brackets here, but you do need those 3 different parts. For number 18, an interval upon which a function has a negative derivative is said to be decreasing, because if the function looks a negative derivative, means the function is going down from left to right, something like this. And so if you calculate the derivative at any point there, like the slope of the tangent line, it would have to be negatively sloped. All those tangent lines are negatively sloped, so the derivative would have a negative value. So that's why D is the correct answer for 18. Number 19, an interval upon which a function has a positive second derivative, the function is said to be concave up. A positive second derivative means that the function is looking like this. And so the first derivative is increasing. And so that's why it was said to be it's concave up. And last multiple choice, which of the following is not a proper symbol for the derivative? Y prime is a correct symbol for the derivative, and so is dy dx. C here is a symbol that represents taking the derivative. Okay, so it's kind of the difference here is the difference between what's a noun and a verb. The derivative is actually a thing. Okay, so it's y prime is a thing, dy dx is a thing, but this symbol actually means to take the derivative of something, and so that's not a proper symbol for a derivative. The derivative with respect to x is, h prime of x is, so C is the correct answer for number 20.